Once I walked all night and all the next day except for a short sleep in a forest, and all night again, and then I was home. In our town, in our street. It's just like I remember. Well, almost. The street is narrow like I remember, and the buildings are all 2 levels high and made of stone and bricks with slate roofs like I remember. But the weird thing is, there are hardly any food shops. At the orphanage, I used to spend hours in class daydreaming about all the food shops in our street. The cake shop, next to the ice cream shop, next to the roast meat shop, next to the jelly and jam shop, next to the fried potato shop, next to the chocolate-covered licorice bullet shop. Was I making all that up? Something else is different too. Dawn was ages ago, but there's nobody out and about. Our street used to be crowded as soon as it got light. People doing things and going places, even though they were still yawning. Farm animals complaining because they didn't like being on the cobbles. Kids pinching things from market stalls. This is very different. The whole street is deserted. I walk along from the corner wondering if my memory is wrong. That can happen when you're hungry and tired, and your feet hurt because your shoes are too big. Perhaps I'm confused. Perhaps I'm remembering all the stories I've made up about our noisy, crowded street. Perhaps I made the crowds up too. Then I see it. Our shop. There on the next corner, and I know I haven't made that up. Everything's the same. The peeling green paint on the door, the metal post for customers to lean their bikes on, and the front step where Simon Glick threw up as he was leaving my 5th birthday party. And there's not a single Nazi burn mark anywhere on the shop. I feel very relieved, but a bit weak from hunger as well, and I have to stop and hold onto the wall of Mr. Rosenfeld's house. Now I'm so close to home, I'm starting to feel sad. I wish Mum and Dad were here instead of away somewhere persuading their favourite author to write faster, or trying to sell books on gun safety to soldiers. I take a deep breath. I haven't got time to be sad. I've got a plan to carry out. Hide the books before the Nazis get here. Then I'll have plenty of time to find a railway receipt and be reunited with Mum and Dad. First, I've got to get into the shop. I walk over and try the door. It's locked. I'm not surprised. Mum's dad was a locksmith before he was killed in a ferry sinking accident. Mum's very big on locks, except for toilet doors on ferries. I peer in through the shop window. If I have to smash my way in, I must make sure the flying bits don't damage the books. I stare for a long time. I have to, because when you're shocked and horrified and feeling sick, your eyes don't work very well, even with glasses. There aren't any books. All the books in the shop are gone. The shelves are still there, but no books. Just old coats and hats and underwear. I can't believe it. The Nazis can't have burned the books already, or the lock would be broken, and there would be ash and weeping customers everywhere. Have Mum and Dad changed their business to second-hand clothes? Never. They love books too much. Mum's not interested in clothes. She was always saying that to Mrs. Glick. Have I got the wrong shop? I kneel at the front door. It is the right shop. Here are my initials where I scratched them in the green paint the day before I went to the orphanage, so the other kids around here wouldn't forget me. What's going on? Have Mum and Dad hidden the books? Suddenly, I hear voices coming from our flat over the shop. A man and a woman. Thank you, God and the others. Mum! I yell. Dad! Mum and Dad stop talking, but they don't reply. They don't even open the window. I can see their faint shapes moving behind the curtains. Why aren't they flinging the windows open and yelling with joy? Of course. It's been 3 years and 8 months. My voice has changed. I look different. Plus I'm wearing a rabbit hunter's clothes. They'll recognise me once they see my notebook. The shop door is locked, so I race around the back and up the steps. The back door to the flat is open. Mum! I yell, bursting in. Dad! Then I stop in my tracks. While I was running up the steps, part of me feared our kitchen furniture would be gone, just like the books. But it's all here, exactly where it was. The stove where Mum used to make me carrot soup. The table where I had all my meals and my breadcrumb fights with Dad. The fireplace where Mum and Dad used to give me my bath and dry my book if I dropped it in the water. Who are you? Snarls a voice. I spin round. Standing in the doorway from the living room, glaring at me, is a woman. It's not Mum. Mum is slim with dark hair and a gentle, pale face. This woman is muscly with hair like straw. Her face is angry and red. Her neck and arms are too. I don't know what to say. Get out, shouts the woman. Grab him, says a man who isn't Dad, coming in from the bedroom. We'll hand him over. I back towards the door. The man comes at me. I turn and run down the steps. Halfway down, I crash into a kid coming up. As I scramble over him, I see his face. He's older than he was, but I still recognise him. Victor Radzin, one of the Polish kids from my class when I went to school here. I don't stop. I keep running. Clear off, Jew, yells Victor behind me. This is our house now. They've stopped chasing me. I crouch in my secret hiding place at the edge of town and listen. No more yelling. The crowd that was after me must have given up. They mustn't have known about this hollow sentry space in the ancient ruined castle wall. When Dad showed me this place years ago, he told me it was our secret, so I never told anybody, and he mustn't have either. Thanks, Dad, and thank you, God and the others, that I wasn't able to fill it up with books like I'd planned, or there wouldn't be room for me in here. Through the arrow slit, I can see the town people walking back towards their homes. Now they're gone, I'm shaking all over. Why do they hate me and Mum and Dad so much? They couldn't all have bought books they didn't like. And why is the Radzin family living in our place? Have Mum and Dad sold it to them? Why would they do that? The Radzins aren't booksellers. Mr. Radzin used to empty toilets. Mrs. Radzin had a stall at the market selling old clothes and underwear. Victor Radzin hates books. When he was in my class, he used to pick his nose and wipe it on the pages. I lean against the crumbling stone wall of my little cave and have a very sad thought. Victor has my room now. My bed and my desk and my chair and my oil lamp and my bookshelf and my books. I think of him lying on the bed, blowing his nose on one of my books. Then I have a much happier thought. America. Of course. The visas for America must have come through. The ones Mum and Dad tried to get before I went to the orphanage. That's why they've sold the shop, so they can open another one in America. Dad told me a story about a Jewish bookseller in America once. The bookshelves there are solid gold. Oh no. Mum and Dad must be on their way to the orphanage to pick me up. Doesn't matter. They won't leave without me. I can be back at the orphanage in 2 days. 2 and a bit to allow for walking up the mountain. Of course, that's probably where all the books are. Mum and Dad have taken them up to Mother Minka so she can buy the ones she wants before they ship the rest off to America. Phew, I'm feeling much calmer now. It all makes sense. I wipe the sweat off my glasses, repack my rags and my feet into my shoes, and wriggle out through the thick undergrowth covering the entrance to the sentry space. Then I freeze. Somebody's behind me. I just heard the grass rustle. I turn around. 2 little kids are staring at me. A boy and a girl barefoot in the dust. We're playing grabbing Jews in the street, says the little boy. I'm a Jew, says the little girl. He's a Nazi. He's going to grab me and take me away. Who do you want to be? I don't say anything. You be a Nazi, says the little girl, squinting at me in the sunlight. I shake my head. All right, you be a Jew, she says. That means you have to be sad, because the Nazis took your mum and dad away. I stare at her. She gives an impatient sigh. All the Jew people got taken, she says. My dad told me. So you have to be sad, all right? Relax, I tell myself. It's just a game. But panic is churning inside me. He doesn't want to play, says the little boy. The little boy's right. I don't. I stand outside Mr. Rosenfeld's house, doing what I've been doing for hours, desperately hoping that the little girl is wrong. Little kids are wrong quite a bit in my experience. There was a little kid at the orphanage who thought you could eat ants. That's why I've waited until dark and crept back into town. Mr. Rosenfeld is Jewish. If he's still here, that will prove that all the Jewish people haven't been taken away. I knock on Mr. Rosenfeld's door. Silence. I knock again. Silence. That doesn't mean he's not there. He could be reading and concentrating very hard, or asleep with lots of wax in his ears, or in the bath and naked. I knock again, louder. Mr. Rosenfeld, I call softly. It's Felix Salinger. I need to ask you something. It's urgent. Don't be shy if you're in the bath. I've seen Dad undressed. Silence. Hands grab me from behind. I try to yell, but one of the hands is over my mouth. I'm dragged backwards over the cobbles into the alley next to Mr. Rosenfeld's house. Are you crazy? Hisses a man's voice in my ear. It's not Mr. Rosenfeld. I squirm round and look up. I can't see the man's face in the dark. They're all gone, he says. Rosenfeld, your parents, all of them. I want him to stop. I want him to tell me it's just a story. I try to bite his hand. They've all been transported to the city, he says. I try again. This time my teeth sink in a bit. The man pulls his hand away and clamps it back on, harder. That's why those weasel Radzins are living in your house, said the man. That's why Rosenfeld's favourite brown hat is for sale in their shop, and most of the other things he left behind. Fear stabs through me. He's right. I did see Mr. Rosenfeld's hat in the shop. I squirm round again. The moon has come out. I can see the man's face. It's Mr. Kopeck. He used to empty toilets with Mr. Radzin. You shouldn't be here, says Mr. Kopeck. Bad time for you lot around here. If I was one of you, I'd go and hide in the mountains. Suddenly, he lets go of me. If they get you, he says, we never spoke. I understand what he's saying. Don't worry, I reply. The Nazis won't be interested in me. I haven't got any books. I lent all mine to a friend. Mr. Kopeck stares at me for a moment, then stuffs something under my arm and hurries down the alley. I'm too shaky to stay standing up, so I sit down on the cobbles. I take the package from under my arm. It's wrapped in greaseproof paper. Inside is a piece of bread and a bottle of water. I don't understand. Why are some people kind to us Jewish book owners, and some people hate us? I wish I'd asked Mr. Kopeck to explain, and also to tell me why the Nazis hate Jewish books so much that they've dragged Mum and Dad and all their Jewish customers off to the city. I tell myself a story about a bunch of kids in another country whose parents work in a book warehouse, and one day a big pile of Jewish books topples into the kids' parents and crushes them, and the kids vow that when they grow up they'll get revenge on all Jewish books and their owners. It doesn't feel like a very believable story. It'll have to do for now, though. Perhaps while I'm on my way to find Mum and Dad, I'll be able to think of a better one. I carefully wrap the bread and the bottle of water again. I'll need them. It's a long journey to the city.